press it as well.
No, it's on.
And then if you could just return that to me at the end,
Excuse me.
please.
There's Mickey. Oh, is that one yours?
No, here it is.
Okay.
All right, 6 o'clock.
Oh, just wait.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening. Guess it is.
September.
Madam Clerk, are you
Yes,
with us?
thank you.
Okay. Welcome to our budget public hearing of September 8th, 2016. If we could, please, if we could stand. And Commissioner Smith, would you say the invocation for us, please?
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Our Father, art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Oh, Father, allow us to work in harmony in this meeting, Father God. Build a fence around all of us in here, Father. Allow us to work in one accord in the name of the people, Father. Allow us to be obedient to your word. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And we could do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hear like an echo.
You're right. You're right. I just looked it up. Freaking me out.
10 o'clock the following week.
All right. We'll go ahead now to the county administrator, Ed.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is the first of the two statutorily required public hearings on your budget for the next fiscal year 17. The second meeting, we'll announce it again later, but it will be next Thursday evening where you'll do the final adoption of the budget. Tonight, we present you the budget. There has been some adjustments. We sent you a memo earlier today that described those adjustments that have taken place. Mainly, it was the addition of the port to the budget and then adjusting for year-end balances and moving money from this year to next year and next year forward to this year. It doesn't change the overall cost. It's just what year the cost might be incurred so that we can properly account for them. The actions tonight are to hear from the public. And with that, we'd like to start off with a short presentation by the staff on some budget issues for the people at home that might be watching this so that they can get a sense of the budget. Then, as I said, there'll be 3 resolutions that we'll be requesting the board to adopt before the end of this evening. And with that, I'll ask Debbie here to present the information.
Okay, and before Debbie gets started, I'd like to ask that everyone turn their cell phones on mute, please, because it is distracting to all of us. That includes commissioners. Let me check my own. Okay. All right, thank you. Yes, Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We have a few slides regarding the tentative budget to show you, and we have a presentation. Thank you very much. Our first slide shows the taxable property values. They were $28.1 billion in FY15. They're $30.6 in FY16, so they have increased, but they still haven't increased to where we were back before the slide. Our second slide shows total countywide millage rates. They've remained the same in level since 2008. There's been no increase in the taxes. Our third slide shows total countywide tentative millages. The countywide, including debt, for FY16 and FY17 tentative is 6.4206. Unincorporated MSTU has stayed the same at 0.6109, and the Palmer MSTU has stayed the same at 0.2546. So again, no change from prior year.
All right.
Commissioners, if I could, this budget, as required by the state, is actually $1,355,620,748. That's where we count all of the reserves, the transfers, the internal service funds, everything that the state requires of us. And that is 0.5% increase over the current fiscal year. as you know, we deal with the net budget. We take out all of the transfers, the internal service funds, and the reserves. And so that net budget that we're talk about will be $578,824,884. We're here to listen to the public about their comments relative to that budget. And with that, I think we have nothing more to.
No, we just wanted to list our last remaining meeting.
Were
That's
we
it.
required to read into the,
We have one statement we have to read regarding rollback millages. The aggregate millage rate for the Manatee County Board of County Commissioners for fiscal year 2016-17 is 6.8656, and the change from the rolled back aggregate millage rate of 6.5449 for the operating millage is hereby determined to be 4.9%. Again, there is no increase in the overall tax rates. And that concludes our portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Debbie. Commissioner Whitmore.
The latest update that you gave us, I left it upstairs. If somebody has an extra copy that Debbie, you sent us, that Betsy had requested or somebody had requested.
have
If
it.
anybody has an extra, will you have an extra one?
You can have
Sure?
it.
Okay.
Extra two.
Here,
Just so I can, okay,
Here.
thank you.
this is the-
Okay, thanks.
But I made some notes.
That's okay.
Any other comments from commissioners before we go to public comment?
I do have
Commissioner DiSabantino.
DiSabatino. Mr. Administrator.
Yes.
Revenue sources, percentage-wise, and you don't have to answer it right now because I'm getting this to you on the fly.
you'd be impressed if I could answer. it.
I will.
Maybe.
Any percentage differences over last year in any category, any significant, or overall, everything was just bumped up 4.9%?
We could probably provide you a report by next week about the revenues, the major revenues, because there's thousands and thousands, but the major revenues that support the budget, any of those that, or just a chart that shows how much each one of them changed by? State shared revenues,
Be interesting to follow.
we could provide that by next week.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Benek.
Yeah, and just a couple of clarifications, something that we continually hear, that we are not balancing our budget and have not done so for the last 4 years. Perhaps you could address that
You might need to say it twice.
comment.
We are required by state law to have a balanced budget. And in accordance with that process, we take the money that will be left over at the end of this year. We add the revenues that we anticipate next year. And then we subtract the expenses. And we then result with a balanced budget. There's no deficit in that calculation. I hear that quite often, that we have a deficit budget, and the only people that can do that are the federal government. We're not allowed to do that by board policy and by state statute. So your budget is balanced. Your reserves are in place. And the credit markets think highly of your stewardship of public funds because they've anointed you with the highest credit rating that's available to a government. And your AAA-rated debt indicates that we are good stewards of the public funds and have managed the resources well.
Okay?
I don't know what other barometer to use other than the independent credit markets.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very aware that we've had a balanced budget, that we've been very fortunate to have the revenue increases that we have had and have been able to make the significant increases, and that's why I asked for this breakdown of the additional funding that we approved after our August 2nd hearing, because I think it's important for our constituents to know where the funding is going. And the fact of the matter is we are significantly funding public safety needs by this additional revenue. The other thing that I keep hearing, and I think it's just a misunderstanding of the facts, is that somehow we're spending our reserves. In fact, we maintain a 20% reserves in all of these budget funds, and we have revenues in excess of that. That's my reading of it. Can you make a comment to that, please?
That's exactly right. We have a board policy of maintaining a 20% reserve. That in part is why you have such an excellent credit rating. You have reserves in excess of that amount that have been available, and we've referred to those over time as the rainy day funds, and gee, we just had some of those rainy days.
A lot.
And we've spent some of those in balancing budgets in order to avoid further reduction in services to the 360,000 people that reside in this county. And you've been good stewards of that, and you have maintained your credit rating because of that stewardship and your ability to manage the cash that comes into this county. So you can call it reserves, call it excess reserves, call it excess revenue, call it whatever you want. It's available, and we have used it with a great deal of discretion to make sure that we maintain our credit rating and continue to provide those quality services to the community.
Thank you. All right, I'm next on the board. First, I would like to welcome Priscilla Trace, Commissioner-elect, to this board. Thank you for coming today, and we look forward to having you up here with us and serving. For those of you in the public, she will be replacing our beloved Larry Bussell.
Sheriff's out there too.
I was going to get to him. Yes, we have Brad Stubbe, our sheriff, and Sheriff-elect Ricky Wells as well. So glad to have you both here. Ed, if you would, Betsy asked I was going to ask that question, but can you also talk about how every year we go line by line on the budget, looking at that to see what we could do or maybe change or whatever? I think a lot of people are under the impression that we don't look at the budget very closely. Can you touch base on that for us, please?
I would suggest those that might say that have never sat through one of your budget discussions, because you have, for the 10 years that I've been here, a zero-based budget, literally a zero-based budget. Every 2 years, and we do 2-year budgeting here, but it's adopted every year as required by statute. But every 2 years, the departments and agencies prepare a budget starting with the first dollar, and they describe what they can accomplish with those dollars in great detail in what we call decision units. And they build up to what they currently spend, and then they reflect what it is they think they need more and what kind of services the public would expect to get if they had more resources available to them. But it is a very well-organized effort to describe every dollar that will be spent publicly. And it takes an enormous amount of time and energy, but it is well worth it because the public can go to what is online, all the decision units that reflect what's been funded, what hasn't been funded. My cohorts in the county administrator business think we're kind of bold to show you what we didn't recommend for funding. But we think that's an important part of the process, because once we deliver the budget to you in late May or early June, we show you everything that everybody asked for, and then we show you what we recommend funding. And by definition, you will therefore see what we're not recommending for funding. Gives you the opportunity to maybe second guess what we've recommended, so that you can make decisions different than our recommendations and move forward. But all that information is available online. It is a very detailed zero-based budgeting, and our budget staff annually wins an award for this budget presentation. The format and the way we present it and the details we take you through has generated recognition for your budget staff.
Okay. And the last question that I have, Ed, the flagged items, the 1.6 million,
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a $15 million revenue increase. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is it safe to say then that 1.6 is actually coming out of that 15 million increase that we had? It's not taking away extra money from the reserves that we had in the past. This is quote-unquote new money, if you will.
A portion of that, we had recommended, out of that 15 million in round numbers, in the spend side of the equation, we recommended $6 million roughly in spend and $9 million not to spend in order to reduce our reliance on the rainy day funds.
Right.
So altogether, we're just going to fit that in as part of that 6 million, and we're really spending 7.2 of the new money that came in.
Right. So it's not taking away from the reserves that we already had?
No.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that everyone, especially in the audience, understood that one. All right, Commissioner DeSabatino.
Sabatino, and I'll keep doing it till you get it right.
Okay, go ahead.
The 1.6 million that we, Commissioner Whitmore just told me came in about 3 o'clock today, encompasses the new items that we wanted, that we had basically flagged.
Yes.
And so about 1.283 is general fund, and looks like 78,000 is coming out of the Southwest TIF for a project manager for the CIP. And they've been working diligently to get the sidewalks lined up down there in South County. And then to transportation fund from increased revenues, we're adding additional employees for traffic signal maintenance and paratransit operators. That was one of the discussions we had regarding the paratransit, and we opted not to increase the fares to our seniors and our disadvantaged citizens who couldn't afford the extra increase. So we are funding that. And then, so I just wanted that on the record too. And then next year, our 2-year cycle starts again.
Yes, ma'am.
And but the figures of the, basically the 1.2 will be recurring funds now. So we'll have to make sure next year we have a dedicated funding stream, right, for the 1.2?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore?
And just to tag along on that, because I think the budget was over 1,000 pages, and we went through every page. And thank you for all the people that did come, because there were quite a few residents that actually came to almost all of them. But for the 1.6 that we flagged other things, but we ended up sticking to these. I think it's important that people know that we added 2 code enforcement employees for 760 square miles. I think we had 10 code enforcement officers. The little city of Holmes Beach has 2. Veteran Services, we added 1 position. Dispatchers for public safety, we added 7. EMS, we added 8. No, sorry. We didn't add 8. Help me out here. That was,
Flag
did we
item
add
number
8 for EMS?
We added
3, wasn't it?
3 for the float and 4 dispatchers, I believe.
Okay, and then we added a CIP project matter, which Robin mentioned. Traffic signal maintenance, we added 2. Paratransit operators, which take along the transportation disadvantage, we added 2, and that was just to maintain the service. That wasn't to add any extra. There's still a waiting list. PAO, I forgot what that is.
Property appraiser.
Yeah, property appraiser. We added 34,000, and then the MSO, the sheriff, additional staffing, we added 796, so it's 1.6 million.
Correct.
That's what Betsy had requested today, so thank you.
All right, I don't have anyone else on the board, so we'll go to public comment. The first speaker is Adele from Turning Points. You'll have 3 minutes, Adele, come on down.
Can I do visual aids?
Sure.
Evening. Thank you for letting us have this opportunity to talk to you. I just wanted to do a couple things. One is, last year was the first time that we did get funding from this board for our medical dental unit. And I just wanted to report out some of the things that we accomplished with that. Last year for medical, we're still relying on Lake Erie College of Medicine up until this last week to provide our primary care services, and we were only able to do that in the mornings. So starting yesterday, actually, or this week on Tuesday, we were able to start doing full afternoon clinics, primary care, using residents and volunteer physicians. So the seed money that you've given us, we're doing our best to invest that into other ways to be able to bring in the people that we need to be able to offer these services to people, increase the access. So now we have full afternoon access for primary care. In addition to that, some of the volunteers who are coming forward are people who have specialties, pulmonology, GI, gynecology. All of these are things that instead of having to refer people now, we'll be able to have specialty clinics in our clinic. So we're really growing that and using the money that you gave us to the best advantage. It was a great investment for you. I don't know what happened to Dr. Little, but he was supposed to be talking about the investments. Hopefully he'll come later. But that's what we have done so far. And on the dental side, I think you know that last year we were able to increase the number of dental rooms that we had because of a grant from the Kiwanis Foundation. So we had went from 1 to 2, and now this year we're able to use money from an ACA grant, and now we have 3 full-service operatories for dental. What that means is instead of having one dentist working 3 hours or 3 days or 4 days a week, we're now operating with, we actually have 4 dentists. They take turns. They're doing 4 days a week that are full service, 8 to 5, and 1 day a week on Fridays, we only have 1. But we also have volunteer hygienists that use the extra room, and we have 1 hygienist that we're able to pay. So we've been able, he has a chart, which hopefully he'll show when he comes to you, how much we've been able to increase the services to people in dental need, but it's appreciable, I can tell you that. They've done, just this last month compared to years before, we did $300,000 worth of service. It's almost 3 times what we've been able to do in any month previous to this. So it really helps to have that stability of a paid person. So what I'm showing you in front of you is just our chart showing where those monies go in medical and dental. You can see contract labor, that's all dentists and dental hygienists. And remember, when you add a dentist, you have to add an assistant, and you have to add some front desk people too. So now that we've built up our staff and we have a great team in place, I want to make sure we still have the money to be able to operate. So, any questions?
Commissioner Whitmore,
We wait till after, or?
I was going to wait.
it's up to you. Do you want to wait until after?
I'll wait till after.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, Adele.
Yeah, good job.
You know, Turning Points is an awesome organization. So I'm assuming Dr. Little is not here?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll wait too, but I'm.
Yeah. I'll do the same. Linda Neely. Three minutes, Linda, thank you.
Good evening. We have a policy that there should be, at public hearings, groups are allowed 10 minutes to speak, and that needs to be clarified by your policy and procedure, and it's a shame that with all the technology, we can't get that answered here tonight. So I'll take the 3 minutes, and I've used part of it. I received a document called the Investment Portfolio for Manatee County, and in it there's a listed fund balance of $854 million. I asked the clerk's office and I asked several of the commissioners for a response. I tried Citizens Action, and I could get no answer what that $854 million actually represented. There is a pie chart that came from Angel Kalinowski's division, because the clerk is responsible for handling the investments as a safety issues where the commissioners couldn't transfer funds to maybe private accounts. Like, not saying you would, just what the legislators say. So that money of $854 million, you own it, it's on the books. Where in this budget is it? Is my question. Under the trim notice, tonight is my opportunity to ask questions and to receive answers of those that I can get in within 3 minutes. There, if you took that $854 million from your $1,355 million budget, it still leaves the difference of an additional $133 million that is not accounted for. The trim notice also states that if you do not adjust your rollback rate, then you did take a tax increase. My personal trim notice, which I have with me tonight, is that my house was assessed value went up $1,070. I built my home in 1985. I have a statement from the property appraisers on somebody's home that purchased their home in Lakewood Ranch in 2014. They paid $540,000 for the house, yet today, where Lakewood Ranch is the hot spot to own property and values, costs have been going up, sales prices are going up, that property was assessed only for $431,000. Now, my question is, why did mine go up? And it's a 26-year-old home. This other home, I believe, was built in the mid-2000s. So it's a much younger home. There was a higher price for the home, and yet their assessed value is coming down. So how does that affect us, the taxpayers out here, who got an increase? The parity of it. So if my taxes went up, you didn't get a increase. You're saying you didn't get an increase, but you did, I think, do a lateral movement within the millage rates that isn't showing, and that's not listed here. So I presume my questions won't be answered tonight, that I'll be hearing back from.
I will say that this much. That is my home that you're referring to, and you need to call the property appraiser. And I'm sure they can give you all the information on my property that you're requesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman?
No
Yes.
answer from the.
I'd like to go on record as saying that I resent the comments made by this person.
Yeah.
Clerk was given the opportunity to invest and manage our portfolio, to keep it out of the hands of these unscrupulous commissioners who would do it, who would divert it for their own purposes. I object to that.
Thank you, Larry. I agree.
That's just flat wrong.
It is. Mr. Jubilina, you are next, sir. You'll have 3 minutes. Actually, I didn't know that.
My name is Glenn Jubilina,
I didn't know that.
community activist and taxpayer. First of all, I want to thank Odell for that great presentation. Turning Points is much needed in this community, and whatever funding you should give it, you should triple it. Dr. Little does an incredible job from what the staff he had to work with. He worked with us with RAM with last year, so hope we'll see him again, but I can't say enough about that organization, so thank you, Odell, for enlightening the public of that. Again, I'm an affordable housing advocate, and we've got another $5 million that is going forward on affordable housing. I haven't seen much traction in this area. Hopefully this year will be a little bit different. We have the funds in there for impact fees to help affordable housing, and once again, none of the large developers have stepped forward and step forward to do any affordable housing. The only one that I really has seen any traction on is Mr. Bancroft, and he's from Sarasota County. So we have to import expert affordable housing. I think that's a travesty in itself. The law library. Is something funny, Vanessa?
Thank you.
Would you
No,
would
you
you
go
enlighten
ahead.
us? No.
You're eating up your time,
No,
Glenn. I
just wanna
suggest
hear
you move
laugh a little
forward.
more. I mean, this condescending type of attitude,
Move forward, Glenn.
the public,
You're wasting your time.
no, I think I'm making a point, is
Okay.
unacceptable. We have a right to address our public officials.
Yes, you do.
Our elected official. And
Civilly.
That's what I'm doing, and I'm doing it civilly. And I could say anything I want, Larry. So until I'm done, then have me escorted
Down
out.
to less than a minute now, Glenn. Do you want to continue?
I will continue,
Okay.
okay, without any condescending smirks or
Get going,
smiles.
Glenn. You're wasting time.
So that's part of the problem with this dais, is they have no respect for the citizens. That's part of the problem. So the law library the old contract was that the Manatee, Florida Bar, who Mr. Palmer's a member of, and also several of the other staff, is supposed to cover 3 weeks a year. That contract was voided, null and void, without any negotiations. That contract was okayed by this board and okayed by the clerk in bad faith. That's fraud upon the people of this county, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not done with that issue yet. And I'm glad you brought up your personal house and the tax appraiser. Let's talk about the tax appraiser. Talk about the port.
Thank you, Glenn. Your time is up.
Well,
Next speaker, Carmen Rose Rafter. I hope I'm saying that correct.
Since you displayed it,
Yeah.
it's public record.
fine.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and chairpersons. I'm Carmen Rojas Rafter, and I'm the new Executive Director for 211 of Minnesota. So I wanted to say thank you very much for your support of our organization. We work really well with Turning Points. We do the intake work for them, and we process their information. I know we had some bumps last year when we had our former ED pass away, and so now I have come aboard. I'm an attorney. I've come back home. I grew up in this area, and so I'm so excited to be in my home community to do some good work. And so I wanted just to thank you very much for your support of 211 of Minnesota. We are going to be continuing forward. We have a good plan to put together. Last year, we received over 82,000 calls for 4 people that we had on staff. So I'm doing a good job working with the Community Foundation, working with both communities to try and increase the staff that we have on board and to make sure that we move forward to reach, to give equal access to everybody in our community for all the human services that there are. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming forward. Dr. Little, would you like to come forward now, sir? Thank you for being here.
I might talk fast because I've a lot to cover. Thank you for having me here. My name is Jim Little. I'm a retired dentist, been in Manatee County since '77. I retired looking for something to do, and I got hooked up with Adele and Turning Points. End of story. When we started out, they took over the Mather Furniture Store. There's a 15 by 15 square in a blueprint, and that's where we started. Through hook and crook, I got one room of equipment, worked one day, and 6 years ago, we're off and running. I thought I was going to give back to the community. I thought I'd pull a bad tooth, get somebody out of pain, and be a hero, feel good about it. That's not the situation in the county. Most of the people we see 15, 20 years since they've last been to a dentist. Not one bad tooth, a mouthful of bad teeth. Frequently at first it was full mouth extractions. We couldn't leave people that way, so dentures and partials became a big part of what we do to restore self-esteem, ability to chew food, and improve employability and that kind of stuff. Even though our work is absolutely free, we do keep track. All dental procedures have an insurance code. There's a usual and customary fee associated with that code, so we can track what we produce. Last year, in 2015, we performed $1.6 million in free dentistry for the people.
Wow.
Last year, that's 2015, we had 1 dentist, 1 hygienist, and 2 rooms. With the donation of the Kiwanis Club and other organizations, we were able to now have 2 dental rooms and 2 hygiene rooms. So as of January 1 of 2016 this year, we have 2 dentists and a hygienist every day of the week. Already this year, we are on your graph that were passed to you. As of the end of August, we're already at $1.8 million in services provided so far this year. We expect to be close to $2.75, $2.8 million by the end of the year. Part of what Adele and Turning Points is asking for, while we have a little increase in our budget, is because we are increasing the services from 1 dentist, 1 hygienist to 2 dentists and 2 hygienists. And this is direct benefit. I wish to address the indirect benefit. In the Bradenton Herald, a report was published from the University of Florida School of Business issued a indirect economic impact of Turning Points to $4.3 million to the community for the year 2014, of which $22 million is cost avoidance. of which 6.5 million is emergency room public savings. Everything we can do, both the medical part and the dental part, to treat people is a whole lot less expensive way of treating people than having them go to the ER, which is very expensive. So every toothache we can treat at Turning Points is saving the taxpayers a lot of money in the county. If Turning Points had not spent $2.3 million, the report says the community would have spent $24 million. That's a return of $10 for every $1 that we spent.
Wow.
All day long, I'll give you a dollar bill if you give me a $10 bill in return. Part of your job is to expand the money, limited sources. We all have limited resources. But if you pay the hospital bill, you're paying a bill. And when you fund us, you're getting a return on investment, a tenfold return on investment. So I think we have earned your support, we need your support, and we hope to maintain our level of service and indeed to grow further. It is our desire in the near future to have a children's clinic on Saturdays. Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
job, Dr. Little.
Dr. Little, thank you so much. We can't say enough about Turning Points. I'm sure I speak for everyone up here. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to come forward? Please do so at this time. All right, not seeing anyone. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Mr. County Administrator, well, no, I'm sorry. Let's go to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Whitmore.
Well, I wanted to wait till everybody was done speaking, but I had a mission to get back to my roots. You know, you get up here and you need to kind of get back and refocused on what's important to you. So last month I went back to Turning Points and met with Adele and saw the new rooms. And then I found out that Dr. Law, who's a longtime pulmonologist, I remember the day he came in town, and Dr. Braxton, they're both triple board certified physicians in critical care. I mean, you know, they manned the ICUs for both hospitals for years. Dr. Braxton is a nephrologist and Dr. Law is a pulmonologist. And they retired, and instead of retiring and enjoying themselves, they are volunteering there, which is, you know, it's a grain of a physician to keep doing it. And you guys have no clue the quality of doctors that you got, plus you've had other physicians added, but you don't have any clue the respect those two physicians have in this medical community. So I implore you to have them to reach out to other physicians in Manatee, because they will come, just like the dentist came when Dr. Little started. If I remember right, at one point you had like 13, 14 doctors start and volunteering dentists at one time. I mean, you know, at different times, but we couldn't get anybody at the beginning. So it's the credibility of those physicians that hopefully you're going to utilize them. And I can't thank you enough. Dr. Little's a rock star, as we all know, and he's right. You know, rural health, and I've said this before, they extract, they may fill, they don't make dentures and partials. When I was working at One Stop, I think Dr. Little was making the dentures and the partials. I saw a machine in there, they were doing something. But I mean, that's unheard of for the homeless. So, you know, I agree that you guys are an asset to this community, and I helped Dr. Little during the RAM event. I was emptying the sputum. So it was not the most fun job, but I did a good job, didn't I? Didn't last long, only an hour or two. And if any nurses are listening or doctors, if you volunteer there, you get continuing education still, right, Adele? And so we can get our continuing education, and the doctors can too. So if I can help you at all with the private sector, with the medical community, but get your doctors out, I'll be more than happy to. Carmen on 211. 3 weeks ago, I had somebody that could not get through, and then there was a fatal shooting in North County that somebody was trying to get through, not this person, but somebody else, and could not get through the lines. So if you could meet with our staff, there's any way that we can improve that, because I've had 2 complaints within a month of people that desperately needed help, and one of them, my friend and I ended up helping him out to make his rent because they couldn't get through. So if there's any way that you could get with Karen Wyndham or staff or Sherry Corey, I would appreciate it. You know, this job is not easy, and you know, we try to do the best we can. We're all professionals, and we try to, you know, go through a 1,000-page budget, and now we're at the finish line here. And you know, I wish that when people would come up here, just let's work together and be positive. We don't get anywhere with this negativity. We just don't get anywhere. I remember years ago, this lady used to come to every commission meeting and criticize me when we were in Holmes Beach, and I was mayor then. And I finally called her in the office, and I says, have you ever noticed when you come up, our eyes glaze over? I mean, it's everywhere. It's not just in Manatee County commission meetings. And I says, it's because you can't work with somebody if they're not willing to work with you. So I just implore that the public, sit down, make an appointment with us, and if we can't work it out, then come before us. But we haven't been given that opportunity. So anyway, but I want to thank Turning Points for all the job, and Dr. Little, thanks for hanging in there for the last 6 years.
Yeah. Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, obviously Turning Points, I really enjoyed reading the article about the return on the investment. It's an amazing resource that has grown in this community. I will tell you, as a planner, my firm helped to get the permitting done so that Turning Points could open. I actually had a young planner that worked for me, and I said, you're going to work pro bono and work to get the special exception through the city of Bradenton, and it was very exciting to be able to do that. There were concerns. The city had concerns about granting that special exception to allow that use in that district. But it's been wonderful for the community, what you have done. I also, I serve on Kiwanis. I served on the Kiwanis board. I know Larry served on the foundation board. And I was there at the grand opening of your new expanded dental clinic. And it's so exciting because we know what the need is for dentists, the dental need that our community, how underserved. It's something that even people with insurance say, hey, I got to let something go. And, dental procedures is something to let go. And it's certainly not something that gets better with time. So to have this resource has been amazing for our community. Something I thought of too while you were speaking is I remember when Harvey Vengroff came here and was telling us about the work that he does, Robbins Apartments, done an incredible job there. And I said, have you been to Turning Points? Are you familiar with Turning Points? And he wasn't at that time. Now I understand they have a great relationship with you. I think those are the kind of things that make Manatee County unique. We're not going to be able to solve all of the problems that we have because people are, underinsured or, they have Obamacare and they're not willing to pay for the deductible. It's a real problem. But we in this community, if we put our minds to it, can solve a lot of these issues. And Turning Points has been a huge part of that. RAM. Glenn Giblina had a great event in RAM. I know it's coming up again, I think November 11th. I happened to, earlier this evening, I had an opportunity to meet with some of the young professionals in our community. I met with 2 young ladies from LECOM, and we talked about RAM. And they said, absolutely, they're committed to being part of that. That event, last year I was standing in line at 5 a.m. meeting doctors and dentists that came from all over the state to work at the RAM event. We need to get that information out. We need to ask for more volunteers. We need to get people because the need is so great. And this year we're even going to do veterinarian. So I think anything we can do to help with the publicity of that, let us know. I know, Glenn, you're probably still working on it. I know Dr. Connor did too. I think it's so important that we remain focused on the positive. It's very tough to do, especially when we have budget issues. We don't have an unlimited revenue source, but we've been able to keep the millage rate constant. There's nothing hidden in it. It's all very clear. If you want to look at it, yes, there was a slight decrease in the amount paid for the debt, and that went into a slight increase so that the bottom line was no change, but that's not hidden in any way. I would be glad to sit down with Ms. Neely and go through that if there's any questions about it. Assessments, I know Robin and I, and Charles, I'm actually the alternate on the Value Adjustment Board. Value adjustments are the purview of the property appraiser, not this board. You can ask us all day long about why certain properties are assessed. We have no answer for you. That's not what we do as a county commission. That is what the property appraiser does. They set what those values are. And, I appreciate everyone coming here and bringing your concerns here. This is your money. It's not our money. You know, it is the taxpayers' money, and how we spend it, that's up to you to come and tell us what your values are and what you think is most important. And so I do appreciate these meetings, and I appreciate everyone coming forward. Thank you.
Well, I was next on the board, but Betsy, I think you covered it. Mr. County Administrator.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we had a citizen represent that there's $800 million in the county's investment pool, and I think the inference was that you could use that to fund the entire budget and have money left over. That couldn't be further from the truth. We have $800 million in an investment pool. First, that has nothing to do with the budget because the budget is put together from an accounting standpoint on an accrual basis, assuming what revenues would inure to next fiscal year and what expenses will be charged to next year. It has nothing to do with the cash in the bank. Two separate and distinct discussion points in the world of accounting. Secondly, the $800 million is actually made up of the reserves in over 150 different funds of the county. And those reserves are made up of general property tax revenues, they're made up of impact fees, they're made up of utility fees, and a whole litany of special reserve funds set up required statutorily. So to think that you could take impact fees to fund the operating budget of this county is an illegal action and couldn't even be contemplated. The $800 million being invested by the clerk is because it is the clerk's job. When you are elected as the clerk of this county, you bring with that title several other titles, one being clerk to the Board of County Commissioners, as we see here this evening. You are also, as the clerk, you are the treasurer of the county, you're the chief financial officer, and the auditor. But as the treasurer, the clerk and only the clerk invests the public funds of this county government. Statutorily, that's the way it works. We can't change it if we wanted to. And the clerk does a fine job of investing those dollars when and if possible to generate money for this county government. But it's all statutorily driven, and it's all under the purview of the clerk of the court. So to think that $800 million has anything to do with tonight's discussion is just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin.
DiSabatino. I'll go in the order that they came before us. Again, I wanted to thank Adele for coming and all she does with Turning Points. And it was great to hear the expansion of the hours and the dentists and the doctors and wonderful. And I get an updated report from Harvey and Travis Van Groff every couple weeks and how they're working with you in placing some of your customers in affordable housing units. And as they're renovating it, they are moving forward in placing new residents. And I know Betsy and I were invited last week or 2 weeks ago to be on camera for a follow-up, and there was an event yesterday, but I had dental work done the last 2 days, so I know how expensive it is. I miss my husband being in the business. It's nice to know that you now have up to 3 full-time operatories and staff for that. And the dental is a really huge part of your program now, and there's not a person that I meet in some of my communities that I go to, dental is their biggest concern. They know where they can go to get medical help, but dental is very, very tough. And so really, kudos to you for helping out. And I think Commissioner Benak brought up November 11th for the RAM, which is Remote Area Medical. So they're having the dental, the medical, the veterinarian, OBGYN this
Primary
year,
care.
primary care. And are we still working with the legislators to try to get dentists and doctors from out of state to be able to participate at these events, or that's kind of fallen off the radar?
Florida
I'll
Board
check
of
and let
Medicine
you know.
denied it.
Oh,
They denied it, the Florida Board of Medicine last year.
Okay. How about also retired dentists and doctors who live in Florida but don't have a Florida license.
We had a Ram dental meeting last night, and there is a process for out-of-county licensed, out-of-state licensed dentists.
Do you need to be on
can
record?
apply for a waiver.
Yeah, if you
We
can
need to
come
put
to
you on-
the microphone and state
Right,
that for
on the
record.
microphone. We need you on the mic.
Back up public comment. That's you're gonna do.
I know.
Oh,
Just gonna have to
okay,
go
yeah.
Right back.
It's a question.
Sorry.
No question.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
So,
Welcome back, Dr. Little.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you.
I was at the
again.
Ram dental meeting last night, and there is a process whereby out-of-county, out-of-state dentists can apply to the State Board of Dentistry for a waiver and receive a nonprofit license to practice just for the event, which no charges are being paid in this kind. So there's a procedure and a process. It takes about 60 days to go through this process. So we are contacting those dentists and the ones who are volunteering. I think there's about 10 or 12 that come from Tennessee, New Hampshire, the South, and this kind of thing that are in process.
right, and they are currently licensed.
They're currently
not
licensed in their home
retired.
state.
Okay, got it.
Got it. Thank you.
That's so southern.
Okay, the county administrator addressed the investment portfolio, and again, Commissioner Benak is putting out there to meet with Ms. Neely, and a lot of that is the money from the Southwest TIF, the CRA money that's still left in there, and then a portion of that is also invested in the Florida Trust that I sit on the Fliggett board. And just 2 weeks ago, the clerk of the court and 2 of her staff and I were in Orlando and we had a 2-day course there where we get continuing ed. And to manage that trust, it's in very high-rated securities. The percentages of the fund are specific, very strict guidelines. So therefore, we don't get the highest return on our investment, but we want to make sure that we protect our investment. And and that's what the county does as well. So I know the clerk of the court is tasked with that in addition to our staff. And then, Mr. Gibolina, I had a question about the RAM, affordable housing. We're working with Harvey. I met with a gentleman from out of state in the D.C. area. He has a firm in D.C. Met with him last week, and he invited me to attend a panel in 2 weeks up in D.C., but I had a conflict. But they're going to be coming back down here on the 15th, I believe, 14th of October, and I'll have him set up appointments with all the commissioners if they so choose to let them know what he's doing. And he's having folks from all over the country who are working with affordable housing, who've already invented the wheel, so we don't have to reinvent it, and how it'll apply here. And, as we said, Harvey has many he lives in Sarasota County, but he has many projects here in Manatee, not just the apartments. He has the motel on 41, and then he has single-family residents and multifamily residents, hundreds of properties that he owns, and he's just an amazing man. I mean, we met him at on camera, and he's wearing his red T-shirt was like 1-800-RENT-ME, and it, shorts and flip-flops, and you wouldn't know he's as prominent as he is. And
if I could just dialogue for a sec.
Please.
Today, we all got handed a report on the top 20 businesses based on revenues on the Gulf Coast.
Coast.
Golf course. Golf course.
What memo? Okay.
It was a book, actually. It was in our mail today.
Oh, I didn't get it yet.
Gulf
Okay.
Coast Business Review, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And number 20
Yeah.
starts with Vengroff.
Right.
Yeah.
I was amazed, but that is something that is really something to be proud of. The second largest company revenue-wise in Sarasota.
And he does other things other than this.
Yes,
He's
of
in a
course, but that's
collection
pretty cool.
company.
That's
And I
very cool.
learned from this man last week how Harvey got started in New York, and it was a really amazing story. So that's for another day. And also, Mr. Administrator, one of Harvey's companies that he owns in New York is the collections company. So if we are going to go out for RFP for our collections, I think they've already contacted your staff I don't want to be involved in that equation, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm sure he's eligible to respond to a procurement.
And he
Okay.
can't talk to us about it.
No, no, no. I'm just putting
Yeah,
people
it's
together.
against the rules.
Carmen, the 211 director, and I know she's been working with Homeless Coalition and a lot of our partners, and the Giving Challenge is coming up soon, so wanted to thank, so hopefully you can get us all information on the Giving Challenge, because return on investment, you get 2 for 1.
Yeah.
So you have somebody who's matching from the community foundation, so.
Even more if it's a new donation. First-time donation, you get even more.
Oh, very cool. So if we donated, but then our spouse donated, that's a new donation, so, okay, cool. And then just back to Turning Points, just another shout out, on your pie chart. It's amazing how, the operating expenses are just so low compared to the rest, and just 2%. And you also, need to get it out there that 12,700 of your budget is for prescriptions that people don't have to pay for, correct? And health and dental supplies and salaries and contract labor. So, and that's like half, over half. So, just a great job, and keep us all informed of what you're doing and what we can do to help. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dealing with affordable houses, and Glenn, you'll be correct. I've talked to quite a few people, most of the people not from Manatee County, dealing with affordable houses. In fact, I got an email from Lori Melton, and she lives close to the area of the mall and concerned about the condition of the mall, businesses, affordable houses, and things like that. And she referenced several local developers. Would they be interested in doing it themselves? And I have not had any feedback from them concerning affordable houses. Everyone I've met with either was across the state of Florida or from Washington, D.C. Certainly, that's some of the things that we need to address. I do have some other concerns, which I'll talk to you about, but not right here. I think they can push that forward. I know staff is working with something, the recommendation to us, dealing with affordable houses, and hopefully that'll move forward. But I can talk to you about a couple of things that I don't want to discuss here. This is not the place to do it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, I don't have anyone else on the board, so we'll go down to tentative millage/budget adoption. Mr. County Administrator.
Madam Chair, before you do that, I just would like to announce that the deadline for filing petition with the Value Adjustment Board is tomorrow, September 9th. So if anyone has a question or a concern, the deadline is tomorrow with the Value Adjustment Board. With that, as I stated earlier, there are 3 actions we're requesting of the board this evening. The first one would be adoption of Resolution B-17-001, the tentative millage rates for fiscal year 16 and 17. As we reported earlier, they are the same as this year. There is no recommended change, nor has the board discussed any change.
I'll make a motion to approve adoption B-17-001.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Whitmore, second by Commissioner Chappie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It is approved unanimously.
Next is the adoption of Resolution B-17-002, which is the budget for Manatee County. That would be the budget that I described to you earlier, the net budget of $578,824,884. The total budget being $1,355,620,748.
I'll make a motion to approve of Resolution B-17-002, budget of Manatee County.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Whitmore, second by Commissioner Benak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It is approved unanimously.
If I might, for those that think we're big spenders, that is exactly a 1/2% budget increase over the current year. 0.5%.
Not much.
Next item we request is adoption of Resolution B-17-003, the budget for Manatee County Dependent Special Districts. Those are those special districts within the county that we described to you earlier.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to adopt Resolution B17-003.
I second the motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bustle, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It is approved unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners. Let's move.
Commissioners, that concludes the work that we've requested of you this evening. And just to announce, the second statutorily required budget public hearing will be held next Thursday, September 15th, 2016, at 6 p.m. in this chambers.
All right, and Ed, would you go over the millage rate again, sir? Comparison one more
Aggregate
time.
millage rate comparison.
Yes.
97.
The countywide millage rate, including the debt service, is 6.4206. It is the same as the current fiscal year 16. The unincorporated MSTU is 0.6109. That is the same as the current year. The Palm Air MSTU is 0.2546 mils. That is the same as the current year.
All right. And just to go through this one more time, the next budget meeting, public meeting will be Thursday, September the 15th at 6 p.m. right here in this room. I'm sorry, Robin.
Commissioner DeSabatino, Madam Clerk, the deadline for filing for new homestead exemptions is
That's set by the property appraiser's
March
office.
March
1st.
1st?
March 1st.
Okay, so anyone who's
the-
settled on a home,
2016, it was March 1st.
okay. It's certain days after a certain amount of days, and right?
It's March
March
1st.
Okay,
It's
okay.
never,
So anyone
never
who's,
changes. That's for 2016 homestead.
Okay.
So that's in the past.
so anyone who's purchased a home this year
If they purchase a home this year, they
have
can
until
apply by
March
March 1st of next
to
year.
file.
But they
Right.
should not wait.
Don't wait because you file one day late and then you wind up at the
Yep,
Value
next
Adjustment
year.
Board and there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Benek?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, I'm the alternate. Ms. Rodman is our chair on the Value Adjustment Board. Charles sits on the Value Adjustment Board, as do the school board. And it doesn't do any good to contact us if you have a concern about your values or your, set by the property appraiser. We can't talk to you about it. We are under sunshine that we cannot discuss that because of the role that we sit. So that's why you have to go to the property appraiser if you have a problem with your value, what has been set. So just want to clarify that everybody's clear, that that's not our role in this position. But I will tell you, the property appraiser does a great job of responding to people and hearing their concerns. I've not heard anyone really complain to me recently that there's any concerns about that. So I would suggest that if you have concerns about, what your appraised value is, that you talk to the property appraiser and he can help you out.
All right, I don't have anyone else on the board, but one last time, Commissioners, anyone else like to say anything? No?
Only thing I got, Madam Chair, with all due respect, driver license reinstatement day from 12 to 6 tomorrow to the courthouse. A wonderful response, and so I look forward to seeing some of you commissioners come through there at 12. You see a lot of people in the process of getting their license back. You have local attorneys volunteering pro bono for anyone that didn't get into the system this time to help them out.
So where do they go?
Right.
To the courthouse part?
Yes, 12 till 6 tomorrow. They're already pre-qualified. I forgot, I got the number, but I left it upstairs. There's quite a few qualified. We got judges from 12 to 6. Tomorrow you'll get your license reinstated, everything right there to the courthouse. One shop location. If you walk up and show up, you still have attorneys there to help you also. I do know it was over 100, I forgot how many people, maybe 100 and some people who thought their license was suspended but wasn't. So it was awesome.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
And it wasn't? Oh,
It
boy.
wasn't.
That's great
They've
public
got
service
insurance.
by
Yes.
Commissioner Smith. Great public service.
Wasn't suspended.
Job. Good
All right,
job.
with that being said, we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.